From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, count this as news of the strange dead pig brains brought back to life, kind of.
And they found signs of functioning going on in these dead brains.
Why scientists did it.
We all know foreign animal diseases will be devastating for the pork industry, but what impact could it have with Iowa communities? We explain ahead of the show.
For our county, it would be definitely catastrophic.
And devastating flooding now hitting farm finances.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. A new rural Main Street index shows the flooding in the heartland is having an effect on things financially on the farm. The index once again standing at growth neutral for April. The RMI has now remained at or above that mark for 5 straight months. More than 1/5 of bankers surveyed, or about 22%, are expecting an increase in farm loan defaults because of last month's flooding in areas such as southwestern Iowa and eastern Nebraska. Farm loans soared to their highest level since the survey began back in 2006. Approximately 43.8% of bankers reported the flooding will have a negative impact on the local economy.
It was already to the point with a number of challenging years financially where they needed to start having, some very critical discussions with ag lenders. Can I get back out to farm again this year? Now you've got ground that who knows how far away it is for being able to be restored to a productive capacity. And not only going to talk to that lender, is there disaster aid that's available for me to go out and to, reclaim this? What about some of the lost conservation efforts that I've been able to put in place?
Of bankers reporting farm flood damage, about 1/2 said grain farmers are dealing with the greatest economic damage. 40% said it was livestock operators. The remaining 10% indicated the worst damage was to farm homes. African swine fever remains a concern in farm country as the outbreak continues overseas. And with news of one of the world's largest shows canceled, ag communities are on edge. Betsy Gibbon travels to a prominent hog county in Iowa for an update.
Fresh cups of coffee served daily at the Kelowna Coffee House, a staple in Washington County, Iowa.
This is a stop that we make probably twice a week, if not more.
A county thriving on an industry outside this room. What you may not see in the coffee shop or with any other business in Washington County is the importance of agriculture. And for farm families like Heather Horace, any disruption, like the risk of African swine fever on U.S. soil, would be a crisis for producers and their communities.
It would be catastrophic for Washington County. We have 1 million pigs in our county, and 25% of our employment comes from the pork production system.
According to the Iowa Pork Producers Association, 2017 numbers show the pork industry creates more than 1,800 jobs in the county. That doesn't even include sales and labor. For the state of Iowa, it's over 141,000 jobs, with sales of more than $36 billion in 2017 alone.
Iowa's obviously the largest hog producer, pig producer in the United States. So when you start thinking about that ranking as a state, it would be devastating because where do a lot of our corn and soybeans go? They go to feed pigs.
The concern comes after reports China has lost over 30% of its hog herd due to ASF. Any case in the U.S. would damage the ag industry.
Once we would have a confirmed case, it's pretty well understood that our export markets will close to us.
Even before a case comes ashore, the National Pork Producers Council deciding to cancel its World Pork Expo over an abundance of caution.
The risk at this show was identified as international visitors to World Pork Expo.
Veterinarians saying there is no vaccine. Developing one will take a decade, possibly 2.
I'm aware that the Europeans have approached our government and there's some joint research going on. There have been agreements, to my understanding, between our government and private companies to share some research that could be beneficial, but we're still, our science community is still searching.
While Hora and others pause for a cup of coffee, they realize any disruption to the pork industry will be alarming for the community so invested in agriculture, both on and off the streets in Washington County.
that money is what is spent at your coffee shops and your hair salons. All of that money would go away.
Reporting in Washington County, Iowa, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
China buying more U.S. pork as it continues to battle ASF. USDA reporting export sales of 23,000 metric tons to China last week. China reporting it could see a jump in pork prices. That's according to the country's agriculture ministry. Reuters reporting prices could jump more than 70%. The ministry says it's predicting the number of pigs sent to slaughterhouses will fall further, but demand will rise during the holidays in the second half of the year. It's expected U.S. poultry exports to China will be a focus during trade talks. Key U.S. trade negotiators are reportedly heading to Beijing next week for more in-person discussions. The Wall Street Journal reporting that will be followed by a Chinese delegation the following week. White House National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow saying negotiators are making good progress.
We've made good progress across the board. We've never had anything this scope and depth between the two countries. And, I remain somewhat optimistic about it. As I've said, it's not a timetable issue. It has to be the stuff, the enforcement's got to work for us, the structural technology, ownership type issues, the commodity issues, the tariff and non-tariff barriers. And they're proceeding. They're gaining on it.
And a big development that could help open up China's market to more U.S. grains. The World Trade Organization ruling last week against China's use of tariff rate quotas for imported corn, wheat, and rice. The case was filed by the Obama administration back in 2016. A WTO dispute panel ruled China's administration handled its quotas inconsistently with its commitments. You'll remember in February, a panel found China provided excessive government support to its grain producers, creating incentives for increased Chinese production of ag products, thereby cutting imports. The 2020 presidential race starting to heat up as more candidates hit the campaign trail. Now, throughout the campaign, we'll bring you coverage of the candidates with a focus on ag. Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke campaigning in Virginia last week. The one-time Texas senatorial candidate participating in a roundtable discussion talking about fossil fuels, greenhouse gas emissions, and investing in renewable energy and technology.
Not only is that wind and solar, but through the Farm Bill, providing an incentive and allowing for a profit for farmers to plant cover crops to absorb more carbon out of the air, investing in technologies like precision tilling that disturb less of the carbon that is in the soil.
The 2017 Ag Census has some interesting numbers about cover crops. It shows almost 116,000 farms purchased cover crop seed. Acres planted in cover crops increased from more than 10 million acres in 2012 to more than 15 million by 2017. On the livestock side, a new study shows U.S. pig farmers making major sustainability progress. The University of Arkansas research released just ahead of Earth Day today. Looking at 55 years of information from 1960 to 2015, the inputs needed to produce a pound of pork in the United States found nearly 76% less land is needed, 25% less water, and 7% less energy. The Chekhov-funded research attributes the gains to nutrition, genetics, health and crop management, and overall technology adoption. Now, as far as feed conversion goes, in 1960, it was at 4.5 pounds of feed to 1 pound of pork. By 2015, it was 2.8 to 1, a 38% improvement. During that time, market hog weights went from 200 pounds to 281. More farmers getting out in their fields now, and they are bringing along their best farm hands. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more today's crop comments. Mike.
Thanks, Clinton. It's great to get some work done on the farm, especially when you have some of the best helpers at your side, like man's best friend here. Just look at the expression on that dog's face. Brad Hahn of Miller, South Dakota, sharing this picture with us on Twitter. Brad saying, "I don't think the dog likes my singing." Maybe we're glad there's not audio on that one. There's a drought monitor. Boy, how little drought there is across the country, really amazing. And when you go past 4 weeks ago, there was a little bit more in the Four Corner region in South Texas. We've even eaten away at that, and we've gotten rid of most of it over Oregon. So amazing changes and not much drought across the country right now. We'll have your forecast coming up in just a little while, but first here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
New numbers from USDA show cattle on feed up 2% overall. For the feeder market, the total was 12 million head. That's the highest April 1st inventory since they began keeping records back in 1996. Placements totaling 2 million head. That's 5% above this time last year. And marketings in March totaling 1.78 million head, 3% above a year ago. When we come back, we'll get you tuned up for the post-Easter market, a roundtable discussion to start the back half of April, and later a strange but true story, how scientists brought dead pig brains to life and why they did it. Here at the Agribusiness Desk, we've got Craig Van Dyke, Top Third Ag Marketing, and Brian Splitt with agmarket.net. All right, Brian, let's talk about what we learned last week on the grain side. Craig will talk about livestock. What did you take away from last week and maybe getting ready as we go through this beginning of April, or end of April?
Well, I think if you're trying to find something that is a newer development in the grain market above and beyond what we've been seeing, it's the breakdown in soybean values comparative to the corn and wheat market, which have been sitting at or near contract lows for the last several weeks. Soybeans in the July contract this just past week has been 50 cents above contract lows, so it really hasn't joined that contract low party like the other two have. And one of the things we did see this week is that futures have dropped below the March lows. Those lows were made on the March quarterly stock and planting intention report. So I do think that is a significant breakdown of support. And I think I had mentioned the last time I was on the show back in February that if we start taking out these monthly lows, it's probably going to be a systematic breakdown where we take out a monthly low, we'll go test the next monthly low, possibly bounce, take that low out. And I don't see why this bean market shouldn't be testing contract lows within the next several weeks. Okay, there's not enough information there to support it at this time. Craig, as we look at livestock, anything you learned last week, you know, Easter's kind of the start of grilling season, kind of kicks us off a little bit. What do you think?
Right, and ham demand as well.
Sure.
You know, one of the biggest things I think I noticed here coming to the end of April is looking at hog spreads and feeder cattle spreads. You've got, you know, front month, April, May to August and out spreads very wide in the feeder market, as well as you look at the hog spread movement of what we've seen the past 2 weeks or so. This last week has been a more extreme move, but when you've got front month hog contracts trading at a record basis to cash at this time of year, they become a lot more susceptible to downside risk, which we're seeing in the May-June contract with cash sitting around 80 cents. So what you have is the ASF storyline taking a toll in the back month contracts. You've seen the June D spread get below the record out of the water, only $5-6 wide right now, and it's unheard of to think that that may be heading towards even. So those spreads are a very important to watch, especially for a hedger. There's a lot more risk if cash can't catch up to futures. That front month hogs are going to have more problems with downside. If you want to play the friendly side, if you got deep enough pockets, back month hogs is where to play the upside. All right, well, I appreciate you both getting us started this week. Thanks for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
To contact Brian Splitt at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Our meteorologist Mike Hoffman looking at rainfall over the past week, and really there in the southern states, they got the heaviest amount.
Yeah, they really did, no doubt about it. You can see the eastern half of the country, most areas had a decent amount of rain though. Now some good news showing the areas that had the severe flooding 3 weeks ago. Iowa and Nebraska almost got nothing. Parts of Kansas as well. And much of Florida really didn't get a whole lot either. Most of the West didn't get much except around northern portions of Utah. But you can see the heavier amounts, some of those 6-7 inch amounts in spots depending on where the heavy thunderstorms hit from south of Lubbock on into areas around and south of Oklahoma City. Dallas area over into much of northern Louisiana, much of Arkansas ended up with 3, 4, 5 inches of rain, and even spreading farther north, you can kind of see there were pockets of 2-inch rainfall amounts, parts of Michigan, western Indiana, and on up into a few spots across the northern Mississippi Valley. All right, let's check things out. The jet stream this week, that storm that gave a lot of those precipitation amounts, rainfall amounts, moving offshore very quickly this week. As you look at the next trough, yeah, it's going to be a slow mover Some models actually cut this thing off over the Central Plains, so this will be putting down some rain mainly in the southern and central portions of the country. We'll show you that map in a second. By next weekend, late in the weekend, that's moving off the southeast coast. The next very slow moving system coming into the Pacific Southwest, and you can see that area could get a fair amount of rain as we head into next weekend. Temperatures this week, I think we have flip-flopped our weather pattern. Finally, we've moved into a more of a spring-like pattern above normal for most of the country. South Texas, Pacific Northwest below. Above normal precipitation from southern Iowa all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, the far northeast, far northern plains, and much of the west expected to be below normal for precipitation this week. 30-day outlook for temperatures from the northern Mississippi Valley to the mid-Atlantic northward. I'm going above normal. Below normal for much of the intermountain region of the Rockies down through northwestern Mexico. As far as precipitation over the next 30 days, North Dakota, eastern Montana, I'm going below normal, near normal for most of the Corn Belt, above normal for the southeast, southern plains, and back into the Four Corner region. That's the way it looks right now. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Bakersfield, California, first of all, good deal of sunshine and warm today, high of 85. Bismarck, North Dakota, a mix of clouds and sunshine and mild, high 61. And finally, Jacksonville, Florida, plenty of sunshine, nice afternoon, high around 80.
Still ahead, how bringing dead pig brains back to life could help humans, plus Machinery Pete.
Hey, stay tuned there, folks. Coming up, we're going to talk about tractors under 100 horsepower.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
They can be workhorses on smaller farms. Machinery Pete this week checks out those under 100 horsepower tractors.
Okay, folks, today let's talk about used tractors under 100 horsepower. Now, honestly, the last 3 years or so, this has been the hottest sector of the used market. Now, just last week, we released our Machinery Pete Used Values Index quarterly report for the first quarter of 2019. And here's a look at the specific sector under 100 horsepower tractors. Now, it's a 1 to 10 rating scale you can see on the left. This is based on all the auction sale price data I've been compiling about 30 years now. And for perspective here, 6.0 is what I tab normal or stable used value. So you can see the last 3 full years now, we've been up over 8 on my 1 to 10 rating scale. Now, proof of the strong buyer demand for good condition used tractors in this horsepower range came a week ago today. Farm Estate auction up in northwest Wisconsin. Now, folks, we're really talking about this sale because it had 4 very low hour tractors, 3 higher horsepower Case IH tractors, and they sold fine, did very well. But by far the hottest tractor on the sale was this one, a 2015 New Holland T4 with a loader and only 187 hours on it, and it went for $43,500. Now, if you go to machinerypete.com today and check out the dealer listings for T4 100s, that price is pretty close to retail. And in fact, just back on February 6th of this year, another farm auction in Wisconsin, down in the southern part of the state, this 2017 model T4 100 with 128 hours and a loader sold for the exact same money, $43,500. So it shows that steady, strong buyer demand. And actually, first quarter of 19, search traffic under 100 horsepower tractors up 18% at machinerypete.com.
It sounds like something out of a horror movie, bringing dead pig brains back to life. Why scientists did it and what the future may hold for this research. Next.
In the Country is powered by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll.
Well, have you heard about this? Scientists have done something pretty wild. They restored some activity in the brains of pigs that have been slaughtered hours before. It raises the hopes for some medical advances, but it also raises questions about the definition of death. Now, the brains could not think or sense anything. By medical standards, they've been dead for 4 hours. That's when scientists began pumping a special artificial blood through them in their lab. Yale University researchers reported in the journal Nature that they were able to restore activity in some brain cells.
It's a new way to study how brain circuitry works, how brain might respond to an experimental treatment of some kind, maybe how certain brain diseases work. It's a fantastic research tool if they can get this to work a little longer, long enough for scientists to do some real studies of it.
It's hoped further work might lead to new therapies for stroke and other conditions. Researchers say they have no current plans to try their technique on human brains. All right, that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.